Greetings! This video is a discussion on product information management in Eclipse, e-commerce platforms, why product information management is important, at least to me. Alright, so let us look at this first off from the Eclipse point of view. Forgive me for jumping here around. Okay, so Eclipse. Now, as you know, there are several database tables in the Rocket Universe database that make up the back end of the Eclipse application, and you access them through customer maintenance. That's a customer file. Vendor maintenance. That's an entity file. I think that is. Both of them are in the product file, which is the one that we're mainly talking about. And of course I think there's 1,024 different tables in Eclipse. Don't quote me on that. It can get to be a mess. Anyway, but we're dealing with products here. So most people dealing with Eclipse are only going to look at products at a one at a time kind of view. And it's really, really hard when you're just looking at one record at a time to really get a sense of where things are going. Now, this is an example for an Elko product. And as you can see, a product record has a great many different fields to it. I think at last count there's like at least 15 fields of information that need to be filled out in order for this thing to really function properly. Ordinarily, you have salesmen that are constantly creating new non-stock products, and this becomes a evolving potential nightmare for other salesmen when they trip across incomplete records or records that are misleading. It becomes a problem for your purchasing agent when he goes to purchase products and has some problem trying to identify what it was that is needing to be purchased, and all kinds of little problems can get caught up with people just doing their normal day-to-day thing and just creating products, try and purchase them, and get them to the customer. No one likes to work with product maintenance. It's boring. It's time-consuming, and you're always seems to be fighting against the wind of however many salesmen you have that are constantly adding new problems to the things that you're trying to clean up. But luckily, there are a lot of tools available to make what is otherwise a not particularly wonderful process a little bit easier. So products are created in a couple of different ways. I mean, ordinarily your purchasing agent would be going into product maintenance and adding new products as he needs to, and usually he's going to be pretty thorough and put in the information that at least is relevant to him. So at least you're going to end up with a description that's useful. Hopefully you're going to have a barcode. A lot of people think, why the hell do I need to put in the barcode? Well, the barcode becomes very, very important, first off, if you ever intend to use wireless warehouse, which is probably a good idea for the 21st century, or also if you're going to be doing some type of mass price updating on blocks of records from a particular manufacturer, which there's a auto price update function in Eclipse, and if you're not using it, you need to. It's an old program that is a little unwieldy to work with, but if you've ever had to update the pricing on 1,500 products, one record at a time, using the auto price update will make a believer out of you to make what would be a weeks-long process at least down to a day and a half, which is a big deal. So of course, your price lines, your buy lines, your status, this is stock, non-stock, discontinued, review, whatever. Come on. I don't necessarily like the way Eclipse is kind of arranged what fields are in the primary screen, because there's other really important ones too that need to be done, and I would not necessarily say that the ones here are always the most important. This one here, the index type, primary and secondary, which most people don't even realize exists, is really, really important. This is a way of keeping a product record of a product that you're probably not going to use but may get used again at some point. You can shift it off to flag it so it doesn't show up on the primary search list. In sales order entry, of course, you want the search list to be as short as possible and as unambiguous as possible so that your junior salesmen are able to identify and select the right product in the sales order as quickly as possible. And that's one little cool little thing that you can do in there to help things work out. For some strange reason, the first thing I would expect to see on the main screen of product maintenance would be the product item number, catalog number from the manufacturer. Yes, it's embedded in the description, but if you're doing mass changes in maintenance, that's not very helpful. They decided to stick it under UPC, under user-defined maintenance. Irritating. Quite often people forget to put that in or forget to change it. Now it becomes a headache when you're trying to do mass changes in Eclipse. And of course there's also pricing groups and pricing matrices, which we won't get into in this, because this is not about how to do product maintenance so much, but just some of the tools for making it from unpleasant to at least tolerable. When you look at product records just a few at a time, things look pretty okay. It's when you start to look at them in bulk and deal with them in bulk that the problem really, really starts to show up. Now, of course, Eclipse has a variety of different reporting tools that you can use to try and get information out of the product file. I'm an old timer, so I still like to do a bulk export using the old eTerm report writer mass load. And here's a common report that I created years ago that I still reuse. And of course I have little Python programs that convert it into Excel to make it much more usable. But this is certainly not the only tool that you could use for getting this information out of. After I've done that report and done a conversion, now you get to see things in a different light and start to see some of the variety of problems that you come across, which makes product maintenance such a pain. For instance, here's some 3M electrical black tape. Okay, that's good. It's a 3M 1400. But the catalog number field is blank. Well, a lot of times if I'm matching up data from other sources, well, I'm using the catalog number field. So great, that's now been orphaned because someone created that product, didn't put in the catalog number. Irritating. Over here is a good example of, okay, here's a Lutron product. It has no UPC code. Well, the mass price updating uses the UPC code to match up to update the price with. So the auto price update program, if I got a spreadsheet from Lutron of a price increase, it's going to skip over that product because I don't have a UPC code. Kinda damned important. Here's another common problem. Typically as a shortcut, employees will just copy an existing record of an existing product and then change a few things and call it done. Well, catalog number of course is on that back page, which people are always forgetting about. And look at these wonderful highlights. Worse than having no catalog number is having the wrong catalog number. As we can see, this is a MA Pro Black, and it's got a catalog number for light almond. Now when I go to match things up and match up pricing, I've now fouled that up. Now luckily in this case, since they're probably the same item, just a different color, the prices are likely to be the same, but what if it wasn't? Now you've fouled things up, fouled up the pricing, and now you're selling a product either too high or too low and messing up your margins. Real easy mistake to make. Very hard to catch. When you catch them, very hard to correct. As you can see in this spreadsheet of 35,000 items in the product file, the number of just catalog number corrections that I would have to correct is in the thousands from a system that's been in operation for about 6 years. And if I had to correct this one at a time, it would be just weeks and weeks of painful work. Here's a good one where product was created, description is nothing. In this case, this Eclipse system prints out the alternate descriptions on the paperwork rather than the actual product description. Well, in this case, it's none. So when that invoice gets sent to the customer, they're gonna go, why in the hell did I buy 5 of none or blank? Not very helpful. Catalog number also blank. Can't match and update prices in a blanket manner. Real pain in the butt. One of my personal favorite annoyances is when you create duplicate products. It is not unusual to have salesmen that are in a hurry, and if they do a quick search and fat finger something, or at least they didn't get something in the search results, or they're a little blurry-eyed and they didn't see the right search result, and they decide to just, oh, hell with it, and on the fly create a quick non-stock product so they at least can put this on back order and get it done. And you create duplicate records in Eclipse. This makes things hell for everybody, because now going forward, the next salesman's not going to know which product to select, which one's the right one. The purchasing agent's not going to know which one to purchase against. You're not going to know which pricing, etc., etc. This becomes a long rolling nightmare. And it doesn't have to be. And a lot of your purchasing agent, product maintenance people spend an awful lot of their time having to go into Eclipse and merge duplicate records because people got a little too anxious. Or also, quite likely, the record was created, but it was created so vaguely that it just didn't show up in any way that was useful in the search terms. And that's even worse, where you have a duplicate product, but a casual look at the descriptions, they look like different products, and that's another bit of hell. As you can see, yeah, when you're just dealing with maybe 10 or 15,000 products, not that big a deal, but this grows. It's not unusual for a larger distributor to have 100,000 products in their product file, of which they might have 20,000 products that are active on a month-to-month basis. How on earth do you manage that kind of data and keep it from descending into complete chaos? Because cascade failure, one thing done however casually wrong in this place, can cause a cascade of problems further down the line. The wrong part got selected, the wrong part got ordered, the wrong part got delivered, now a return got done. Not only did you not make money, but now you actually lost money and pounded it in the ground, and then because it was misidentified and everyone's busy, it got put on the shelf and ignored instead of returned, and that was money you just burnt. I don't know about you all, but I don't like burning money. Even something as simple as what type of abbreviations you use in the description, because of course you're usually trying to get under 35 characters in a lot of cases, so it'll fit on one line in the sales order, or 2 lines at most. Doing things like having inconsistent abbreviations for under cabinet, or LMP instead of lamp, or interchanging the both of them, or W for watt, or typing in watt entirely, or all those good things. The more inconsistent you are record by record, the harder it is for your salesman to identify the right product, to search the right product, and to sell the right product. Sales is hard enough to do when everything is perfect. Why do you want to sabotage your salesman by making it harder for them to make you money? Even in the warehouse, where salesmen think that the warehouse might not be terribly important. Well, imagine what a daunting process it can be to try and do receiving if you can't manage to match up the product with the packing slip for the receiver. It gets really, really hard if the counts are wrong, the description is hard to match up. So you don't want to make your receiving more complex, because warehouse management is extremely important, and if you're not being able to receive the product, or it takes 5 times longer to do, or you can't identify the product correctly, or nothing on the damn box as far as catalog numbers or labels or UPC codes seem to match up. I mean, warehouse nowadays, if you're not using barcode readers and something like a wireless warehouse product, you're an idiot. And you won't be in business much longer. You had better embrace these things. And all of a sudden, if if a warehouse receiver goes to receive a product and he pulls out his barcode scanner and it can't find it, now it's going to take him 10 to 15 times longer to do that receiving than anything else. That costs money. That costs real money. Yeah, you think 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there doesn't add up, but at the end of the month, that's a lot of money. Did I mention money? And for my final example of annoying is something like this product here. So ordinarily the PO receiver is probably only going to print this first line here. So when someone's going to receive, they're going to get that. And this particular vendor likes really, really long product catalog numbers. God help you trying to untangle that. You can easily transpose a letter, a dash, a slash, and be receiving the wrong damn product. God help you. Luckily, UPC codes to your rescue, right? Because you've got a barcode scanner and you're scanning it. Oh, nope, no UPC. So you're not going to find it that way. So God help you. You're going to hope to high heaven that somehow someone digging through is going to be able to find that catalog number and not transpose all the numbers when they go to read it and actually get the right one. You didn't make things easy. And the final insult is, of course, the catalog number doesn't exactly match. In this case, it's pretty close, but DIM10-M and DIM10-EMG could be very, very different things. It's the devil's in the details. As I'm fond of saying, you can tell the health of a company not by how it handles the standard day-to-day stuff, but how it handles exceptions. And this is where most things fall apart. And God help you if you've created an environment where everything is ruled by exception, because, well, you're wasting money and you probably won't be in business for a lot longer. So, tools to make the unmanageable a little bit more manageable. Back in the day, we have the Trimble Trade Service, electrical catalog service. If you're not spending the money per year for this type of service, you're an idiot. Very useful tool to be able to do lookups and fill in the missing information. Trimble Trade Service was the original catalog service as far as I know. They're a little bit dated now, but they still have, I think, the biggest database of the most consistently accurate information out there. But your mileage may vary. The more popular one these days is IDEA. I think it was used to call IDW, Industry Data Warehouse, or something like that. I think maybe it's just IDEA or IDEA Connector now. And this one has got some much more modern tools, and they really excel with more enhanced data that could be used for e-commerce sites and other things. But this seems to be more preferred over trade service, but your mileage may vary. So when you sign up to a catalog service like IDW, of course you select out of their database of 3 million plus records the particular manufacturers that you represent and resell, and once approved you have access to all those product records, which is very nice. And of course they've got standard format notations and commodity codes and standard abbreviations and such, so you have a nice consistency of information from one product to another, one vendor to another. Now this is great, but it wouldn't be particularly useful without another half to this thing, and in the case of Eclipse, this is something called the Product Data Warehouse. So here with a catalog service, you'd sign up to the subscription, you'd set up an export file, a load, to usually run once a week, once every couple of weeks, that type of thing. And then with the PDW enhancement in Eclipse, your Eclipse system will go out and get that data and bring it into a separate database table in your system, which allows you to do some really, really cool stuff with it. So not one or the other, you kind of have to have both. You have to have a catalog service with consistent data, what they call normalized data, and you have to have something like the product data warehouse in order to get it into Eclipse and be able to work with it more effectively. If you have the old PDW, that can only be accessed through eTerm. If you've bought the new PDW2, then you can get it through Solar. My system, of course, is the old PDW1. We have not upgraded it yet. I'm told that the functions are pretty much identical, but people prefer the Solar interface nowadays, and I get that. But once you have this set up, as I said, it creates a separate table in your Eclipse Rocket Universe database, and you create a set of templates, import templates and such. And these are a variety of tools for being able to create import templates for a variety of data sources. Of course, IDEA and Trade Service are already pretty much predefined, so all that work has been done for you. I think there, at least for IDW, there's like 195 attributes, fields of information that are pulled into that database that you can then use to fill in required information in your product records. So a lot of stuff, all nice and consistent. So these tools allow you to change the templates. You can also import data from other sources, which is extremely important. You could be getting spreadsheets of information from vendors that might be more useful for some of the things you're doing, or pricing information. You could pull it into PDW with a template, and then you can do an update process, or it's been a while, I think it's a Eclipse product file sync is the function, and you can take the information that hopefully is more accurate in PDW and overwrite and correct your product records that are in your product file. So extremely important. Once again, not one or the other, but both. You got to have the PDW and you got to have a reliable data source, and your vendors aren't always that. Switching over here to Solar for a moment, mainly just to show you all that I'm just not an old fart that can only do eTerm. This information is going to be viewable in either eTerm or Solar. Take your pick. But here's an example record that we've had linked to the PDW record, and you can see it shows up quite clearly down here on the bottom. And when you have synced, when you have linked a item in your product file to an item in PDW, then you've got that symbolic connection. You can use the information in PDW to manage and rewrite that record. If you go ahead and click on that link, as you know, everything in Solar, if it's blue, it's a hyperlink, and you can drill through it. This will pull up that record in PDW, so you can see the information feed that you got from IDEA and what it looks like. This is a good way of checking, make determinations on whether or not you want additional fields of data and what they should be to maintain different sections of the product file. You can do a one-at-a-time syncing in a record, but PDW does have a mass syncing and search process, which is a little tedious, but not too bad, provided that your product file isn't a complete dumpster fire when you get started. So this is a very handy tool for ensuring data quality and management. PDW and the IDEA catalog would be great enough with just those things, but you can also maintain your pricing with the PDW tool. And there's a variety of different ways you could do this. You can either take the catalog pricing, figure out what your percentage discount is, put that into a formula on a template in PDW, and then it will make the adjustments for you. Or, as I said, you can take vendor information, create a template for that, come up with a special pricing field that you use in that, and you can and then maintain the prices there. But the big thing to get in mind is the idea of being able to change hundreds or thousands of records at a time instead of onesie twosie like you're probably doing now. If you're a purchasing agent, God's help you if you're having to go in and call up and do a price check on every darn thing that you go to back order from your vendor, and then manually changing the price each record at a time. Oh my gods. And that's not the modern way to do it in the 21st century. So very, very handy to have these tools, catalog service and PDW. Of course, this is the 21st century, and odds are you're not just maintaining that information in Eclipse. You've also got other platforms that you're having to maintain information, like an e-commerce system. Here's an example system that's not tied directly with our Eclipse system, but is kind of a standalone system. Now it's got its own database of products and pricing and descriptions, and how on earth do I maintain that? Now I've got two entirely different platforms, but if an order is done in this e-commerce site, the pricing better be right, and there better be a way of making sure that the product information, the catalog numbers, are searchable in Eclipse, or that new records can be created in Eclipse, and that they kind of match up. Because God's help you, this would be a hell of a process to deal with if they're all out of sync and all jumbled. And this is where the catalog service is useful, because most of the catalog services will allow you to do exports and manage that data to put into your e-commerce product, but you'd still need PDW for the Eclipse side. PDW would not be useful for being able to do exports to synchronize here. And this brings us to the next level, which is the idea of a product information manager, or as I like to think of it, one ring to rule them all. So here's an example of a fairly inexpensive to implement product information manager that's pretty robust. This is a product, it's open source, called Akeneo. It's got a professional version and a community edition. This is the community edition. This type of thing costs very little per month to run. You host it on in this case, we're hosting it on the GCC, Google Cloud Platform, and just running a virtual machine, which I can scale up to whatever I want. I think it took me 10 minutes maybe to fire up this prototype system. The product information manager becomes kind of a neutral territory, where if you have a catalog service and you also have other data sources like vendors and I don't know if you're doing web scraping or something like that, but multiple sources, and you're trying to combine all of that information into a central source and then backfeeding that into your other platforms, this is about the only way to do it. PDW is very good as long as you're only confined to Eclipse and you're only dealing with text information. But it's useless for managing your e-commerce platform. Something like PIM is useless without having a PDW in order to import the information into your Eclipse system to keep it in sync with your e-commerce platform. So it's all kind of a symbiotic relationship that you have to have the several pieces working together. Now, you can go ahead and do like a multiple thing where PDW is set to pull the information, the bulk of the information using from the idea catalog automatically and populate that. But you also are doing a manual export out of IDEA and getting that same catalog information, putting it in neutral territory where you can add other stuff and add and manage your picture information, which then you can put into, like in our case, a platform like BigCommerce, but any platform. It is not unusual to have a Eclipse use the Epicor Commerce connector and use a Magento platform for e-commerce. I would not suggest doing that unless you feel like spending lots and lots of money and having lots of problems. But you can use that mechanism, but still a product information manager becomes very, very handy. I mean, you can try and manage that stuff with just spreadsheets and a file folder on your hard drive that's got 1 million product pictures in it. Good luck. That becomes a nightmare real quick. As we said before, I mean, if you're using kind of the PIM as a central repository and other data sources that you're putting in, like Akeneo here, then you can do exports out of this. You could import it into PDW and still use that information. So it's a way of, you can also augment what you're getting out of the product catalogs, out of IDEA. And finally, going back to Eclipse, where all the magic happens as far as I'm concerned. Here in sales order entry, we can get a flavor of how all of this interacts, how the product file, the primary and secondary indexes, and PDW, and possibly other data sources and other repositories like Akeneo can all play together in the sales order to allow things to work out better. So we're doing a bid here, and we're looking up items, and for those familiar, you have your short list, as we said, moving products in your product file from primary to secondary to shorten your list so only the most relevant stuff shows up is really, really handy. So I typed in 435, and this is the best fit it could find for something that was a 435. If perhaps there was a something 435 that I moved to catalog, you can still get it. It's just another tab here, and you'd select it there and go, oh, okay, well, I wanted this off the catalog. This was a product that I haven't used in some time, but it turns out to be relevant. So, I'm sorry, it skipped over catalog here. There's nothing in the catalog. Anyway, what it's showing me here is the PDW tab. I do that occasionally when I'm trying to do an example thing. This particular system doesn't have a whole lot of things in catalog, so when I click catalog, it jumped over it. But still, as I said, same thing. If there was something in the catalog, you'd click it there, you could select it off that. Since it isn't, it's automatically pulling me over to the PDW. Now this is really, really cool here. I can search the PDW catalog index and look for an item that best matches what I'm looking for here. And instead of doing a manual product creation and creating a bunch of gunk that someone has to go back in and fill all the other fields in, I can select the particular product that I need off of the catalog. It'll be pulled out of that data table. A new product record will be created behind the scenes in my product file, and it'll usually just prompt me to put in my cost and my price, and now I've got it. And all of those wonderful fields of information that I needed, the abbreviations, the abbreviated descriptions in the right format, the UPC codes, the weights and measures, all of that comes over nice and slick. So very, very cool, and a way of reducing errors and doing data quality and making sure that the people in your purchasing department are not spending months of their lives unnecessarily having to rewrite product descriptions and merge products. So highly recommend this. And of course, you can still create products in a sales order manually without PDW, but it is fraught with all kinds of potential mess ups. So you go under line item here, non-stock add edit, and that gets us to non-stock product entry, where you can do a quick search one more time to make sure it's not in there before you create it, and then create it. But now you've got all these choices to make, and there's a very good chance you're going to mess something up, or someone's going to do a shortcut. Salesman being in a hurry, their product description is going to be green thing and in the wrong format with no UPC code, and they're going to make the price line generic instead of the right item, and they're going to use the wrong unit of measure, and they're going to put in the wrong price basis, and they're going to put in the wrong keyword, and and once again, the salesman trying to save himself 2 minutes on the front end will easily create 30 minutes worth of work for the purchasing agent on the back end trying to clean this up. And it all can be avoided completely if you had PDW. Did I mention PDW? Good. And now just for a final second, talking about Akeneo, my favorite PIM, of which there's actually, I think, 4 or 5 other popular ones out there. This one just seems to be the quickest, slickest, easiest little doodad for what I like to do. if you're dealing with data from a variety of sources, hopefully most of it's coming from a catalog service like IDW, but then you've also got some information that's coming from the vendor, some from web scraping, some from manual, who knows what the heck, maybe manufacturer in China. It's hard to say. And a lot of times you may want to mix and match. I mean, IDW might be perfect for getting your product weights and measures and the descriptions, but you really don't like their pictures, and so you're going to the manufacturer's site and you're scraping the pictures for the product to put in your e-commerce site. And Akeneo is a nice type of thing that allows you to create your templates and your groups and be able to, when you've got multiple people dealing with these multiple data streams, how to try and coordinate it. Here you've got a very simple dashboard where you can have groups of product templates, the attributes that are in it, and you can pick which attributes are the essential attributes. And the system will keep track of how many of those attributes you actually completed, and so you can get an idea of the quality of the records that you're getting for a particular line, when they're updated. And of course, it's got all kinds of wonderful functions for exports and imports. So it really can make a project that's very, very hard to coordinate amongst several people actually not too bad at all. In the case of e-commerce platforms, there's usually some type of API hook, like BigCommerce might have, where I don't even have to do a manual export and re-import process into BigCommerce. I can use their API to do an equivalent of PDW and to link and maintain records and upload records as needed, or various pieces of information off of it. So, very, very handy. So, at the end of this, I hope I've communicated to you how important product maintenance is, how PDW can be of immense benefit to you, how the catalog services play their parts as well as other data sources, and ultimately getting, if you're doing a multi-platform company and you've got e-commerce sites that you have to deal with, that a PIM, something like Akeneo, can be of great benefit. Hopefully this was worth your time. This has been Doug Fashing. Thank you for attention.